We continue with our breakdown segment talking about Jaxson Dart, who is doing wonderful things at Ole Miss. Even though he had a rough spring game, he's picking up the defense. We have Corey Burton, the offensive coordinator at Hillwood High School, here to talk about exactly what Jaxson needs to improve on and exactly what he brings to the table. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to this extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis, and I'm here with Corey Burton, the offensive coordinator from Hillwood High. Before we get started, though, I do want to tell you all about BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. I bet if you say pretty please, they'll even hook you up with MLS. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, including live and game betting, scores and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today to use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm here with Corey Burton, the offensive coordinator at Hillwood High School, and we're doing breakdowns of newcomers at Ole Miss plus Luke Altmyer, because if I did a Jaxson Dart, I wanted to do a Luke Altmyer, so I wasn't appearing to show any type of favoritism on that. But this one is for Jaxson Dart, who had a relatively good season as a true freshman. He ended up 117 for 189. That's a 61.9 completion percentage. He threw 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, had a quarterback rating of 132. All in all, it was a really impressive year for Jaxson.
Yeah, really impressive year for Jaxson. Not so much for his team. USC, again, they put themselves in a position where they were hiring a new coach. But, Jaxson Dart, again, was I don't know that he comes to Ole Miss if Caleb Williams doesn't come over from Oklahoma. So I think this is a really good get for Ole Miss. And what jumps off at the page to me is just how well he managed as his freshman year throughout that Pac-12 schedule. There was a lot of turmoil in the building there at USC, and he just looked like he just handled it with poise and did his thing.
Yeah, and if you saw, he had a fairly rough spring game, but I tell people all the time, Jaxson Dart had been in Oxford for about 3 weeks by the time he started spring practice. And he was rushing to learn the playbook, find a place to live, learn where his classes are. He had 100 things to do, and he's 18 years old. Let's not forget about that. So the Jaxson Dart you're going to see in the fall is not going to be the same kid that was there in the spring.
No, not at all. I mean, he's got to be more comfortable now. The summertime gave him time to get settled into Oxford, get settled in with his dorm, get settled in with his teammates, and get to know those guys, and that's the most important part. So once he gets the hang of that, once he gets in the swing of that, he will be just fine. This quarterback battle is far from over. Has Ole Miss had their first scrimmage yet?
No, the first scrimmage is Saturday, actually.
Saturday, okay. So that'll tell us a lot when him and Altmyer go up against each other in that scrimmage. But he has really good numbers at USC. He has a very, very powerful arm, which means that it's going to open up things down the field vertically for Lane Kiffin, and I think Lane Kiffin is a big fan of the vertical passing game. As you know, he might be tossing that play sheet up a little bit more with Jaxson Dart. One of the thing that really stood out to me with him, obviously all the off the field stuff, he handled that really, really well. But he has very good accuracy, and he has very good accuracy on his off-platform throws when he gets flushed from the pocket, and he has to make throws from different arm slots and contort his body to get the ball down the field. That kind of stood out to me because in the SEC, you're going up against NFL caliber defensive linemen. You're not always going to have a clean pocket, especially some of the clean pockets he had at USC. So for him to be able to make those throws, I think is going to be important as he goes through if he wins this starting job.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty cool to see and everything. And if Jaxson Dart wins this job, what do you think has happened?
I think he's won the team over. I think he's shown that he is far and away. Well, I think, first of all, he's shown that he's far and away better than Luke Altmaier. He's going to have to do that to give himself a chance to win this job because Luke Altmaier has some built-in advantages. But also, he's going to have to learn the playbook. He's going to have to prove that he can step in, make the checks that he needs to make, get the ball where it needs to go, and give those guys, without a shadow of a doubt, their confidence and trust that he can lead this team to possibly a division title, which they're going to push Alabama for, I think, this year.
Yeah, and Jaxson Dart, would you say he reminds you of a 2019 Matt Corral? Maybe a little bigger, but like experience watching him play?
Yeah, he does. He does a lot of the same things that Matt Corral does. He's bigger and stronger than Matt Corral, which I think if you're an Ole Miss fan and if he's in the starting lineup, I think that's a very, very good thing. And that's not taking anything away from Luke Altmaier. I think Ole Miss has a really good problem on their hands. Who's going to be the starting quarterback? This is a battle between two really talented quarterbacks.
Now, do you see the offense, whoever wins this job, being different, and why?
Not real. Well, maybe a little bit, and it's going to be very minute details that, the average fan probably won't be able to see. You might see with Jaxson Dart a little bit more vertical passing game. With Luke Altmaier, you might see a little bit more getting him involved with the run, and getting him and moving the pocket with Altmaier. If Jaxson Dart wins it, you might see more play action, more RPO, more things that you saw with Matt Corral.
Okay. And not to put you on the spot on this, how do you see this quarterback competition actually going?
I think ultimately Jaxson Dart will win. I think his talent is gonna outweigh the intangibles that Altmaier brings to the table. I think it's going to be one of those situations where you just can't keep Dart off the field because he can do a lot of things physically that Altmaier can't.
Yeah, I had Bill Flowers on my show last week, and I've had Bill on several times, but one of the times he talked, one of the things he said is for Luke Altmaier to win this job, he has to clearly be head and shoulders to win because you don't bring him in from USC. You don't pay him all the NIL money to sit. Mm-hmm. If it's a tie, it goes to Jaxson Dart. You agree?
Exactly. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, with the money and NIL stuff that's involved and the effort it took to get him there, yes, I do. But Luke Altmaier has some things about him. So this job, this thing is not a lock for Jaxson Dart. Let's get that out of the way too. Like Luke Altmaier has some things about him that could swing the whole thing in his favor. I mean, look at what happened in my neck of the woods at Georgia with Stetson Bennett, or now Stetquavius, as they're calling him. I don't know if you've seen that. You look at Stetson Bennett and you're like, who the heck is this guy? He's like 5'10", he doesn't have a huge pop on his arm, but I mean, the guy just is a dog, pun intended. I mean, the team just said, you know what? We believe in this guy and not JT Daniels. And that's kind of what ultimately led to Stetson keeping that job.
Yeah,
I think the same thing would be true for Altmaier. If Altmaier wins this job, he went out and earned it. He went out and won it. Jaxson Dart, I think, has a lot of built-in advantages. And ultimately, I do think Jaxson Dart will win this job. But if Jaxson Dart misses a game or two, Altmaier could slide right in there, take his job, and not look back. He could get Wally Pipp, too.
All right. Corey Burton, offensive coordinator of Hillwood High School. Thank you, Corey.
No problem, man. It was a pleasure.